Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm so close, I could taste sweet victory. I know this life meant for me.
Adam, what's your point? The future looks bright.
My handshake is better than anything I ever saw. It's right here.
You are a one-of-one?
My son's right about
I don't think I've ever said this before.
Laura Loomer, how are you?
Doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, we've been looking forward to this. The Laura Loomer who knows all the stories in the White House. We don't know how, but somehow, some way you get the stories.
You get the scoop.
So how is that? How is it that, you got people fired at the White House? You know, you see videos with you walking up, president hugs you, and the next thing you know, Mike Waltz, a bunch of guys getting fired. How do you get all this kind of intel?
Well, look, I've been doing what I do as an investigative journalist for the last 12 years, and working in grassroots political activism, running for political office myself twice in the state of Florida, and also just being a day one Trump supporter, really, since he went down those golden escalators at Trump Tower. You meet a lot of people, right? And just like you're a great networker, I also have spent a lot of time throughout my life networking and developing sources and nurturing relationships with sources. And it's really wild, right? Where my life has taken me. I honestly didn't think that I was ever going to be able to make a comeback after being completely canceled everywhere for years, being really the canary in the coal mine for cancel culture, shut down on all these platforms. But it's been a whole new lease on life since Elon Musk gave me back my X account in 2022.
Everybody else gave it back as well, meaning Facebook, Instagram, Uber, Lyft. You're back with everybody?
No, not everybody, just Elon.
Wait, you're not back on Facebook?
No.
Only X?
Yeah, only X.
And have you tried to go to these guys to find out why they're not giving it back to you or no?
Yeah, I've had conversations with their consultants, and they hired a bunch of GOP consultants. Facebook did after Zuckerberg had his makeover, now he's a cool guy, right? All of a sudden he's MAGA. He took the tampons out of the boys' bathrooms at Meta, so he thinks that all of a sudden we're going to forgive him for years of censorship and election interference. But no, they never gave me back my account. And when they said that they were going to lift all the censorship, I wanted to test it. So I went and I created an Instagram account just to kind of test the boundaries. But, and I've gotten a few thousand followers since I created this new account 2 months ago. It was really just a test to see if they were really serious about not censoring people anymore. But I wish I had my old account back. I had a massive account. So
is this account still on? Like they're not bothering you with this new account?
I don't really post on it much. I just use it for research when I'm investigating people and looking into people and breaking stories, but so far so good.
So the idea of getting people to trust you with intel, okay, that's a skill set. Now, I think you worked with Project Veritas and you worked with Infowars.
I worked for Project Veritas, so I went to college in Miami, Florida, and ended up they actually paid me to quit my job. So I was working for a Fox News affiliate called Channel 7 News in Miami, Florida when I was in college. So I went to school full-time and I also worked full-time. So I was taking 21 credits a week and also working 40 hours a week at the news station. And
what year is this? This is 15?
This was in 2014.
Okay, 14.
And then ultimately, when I was studying broadcast journalism and political science, I was the president of the College Republicans at Barry University in Miami. And I did this expose on my university, and I ended up getting invited to a political conference in Palm Beach, and that's where I met James O'Keefe. And we stayed in touch, and ultimately he asked me if I could hop on a plane and get to New York the very next day because he wanted me to come in for an interview. And obviously I canceled all my classes the next day and immediately hopped on a plane and flew to New York, and I didn't even own a winter jacket. So here I am, freezing my ass off.
How big was he in 14? Was he known already?
He was
already
known.
established?
Like the Acorn expose had already happened. The Planned Parenthood exposés had already happened. But Project Veritas definitely was not a household name. I mean, just looking around the size of this studio, it's probably the size of this, honestly, just the size of this room. It was a tiny little office. Yeah, it was a tiny little office and everybody crammed in, and there really wasn't even enough room for everybody to be in the office. So it wasn't until after the presidential election that they really blew up. And so I quit my job at the Fox affiliate and then started working undercover for him while I was a senior. And ultimately, I ended up getting kicked out of college my senior year, a month before graduation, for an expose I did on my university. And then I ended up packing all my stuff in my Jeep at the time and driving to New York. And then I immediately started working undercover in the Hillary Clinton campaign, exposing her on hidden camera. And so for 3.5 years, that's what I did. I worked for Project Veritas. I was their lead embed undercover journalist, exposing Hillary across various states.
Give me some examples on how you did it.
So you have to have an alias. So I had to have different identities, fake IDs. You're not allowed to fill out actual FEC documentation with a fake ID, but in terms of just going into the office and interviewing and, getting a volunteer position working with the Hillary Clinton campaign, I had at least 5 different names, right? Different aliases.
That's what you did. You were a volunteer on the inside.
So I went in. The way it would work is I would say, I want to volunteer, and you'd sign up. And then you would just be super aggressive, right, to the point where you're a super volunteer, to the point where they start to offer you positions. And that's how I became so embedded, is they thought, wow, this volunteer, they didn't know I was undercover, is so dedicated. So then they tried to make me a field operative for Hillary Clinton. And I got invited to, private events with John Podesta and Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and Huma Abedin, to the point where I was in the same room with some of these officials at the same time and was able to get, hidden audio and recording of Huma Abedin talking to me at the time about how they were actually going to allow for every single Syrian refugee to come into the United States. And if you recall, this is at the time when ISIS was on their rampage and Obama had called them the JV team. And, you had these Syrian refugees, migrants in the United States committing what Obama called workplace violence, right? And so this was one of the top 3 issues, was who was going to crack down on the Syrian invasion into our country. And I was able to get a hidden audio recording of Huma Abedin when I spoke with her at a private Hillary Clinton fundraiser. And it was actually mentioned by President Trump at the debate between himself and Hillary Clinton. So it exposed her as a liar about her immigration policy. We exposed them saying things like beg for forgiveness instead of asking for permission when registering illegal aliens to vote. We caught a lot of things on camera. I got one of the election supervisors in Manhattan on camera admitting that the Democrats bus people in Chinese and Islamic and Hispanic neighborhoods so that they can commit voter fraud. And a lot of this stuff was, front page news. It dominated the news cycle.
What kind of background check did they do on you? What kind of, are they doing any vetting, references?
They didn't do any vetting. They didn't. It was shocking.
This is a presidential campaign.
Presidential campaign. No vetting. I mean, if they did vetting, then we would have never been able to get that close to Hillary Clinton with a hidden camera.
Well,
yeah.
And were you ever in the same room with Hillary or no?
Oh, yeah.
Multiple
times.
What was she like?
I mean, just very fake, right? Just kind of cold, fake. I was in the room with her advisors and her staff for the most part, right? With Huma Abedin, and I was in a room with John Podesta once. I mean, Hillary's just very cold, even to her own staff. She's not very friendly. Those people that kind of smile and, oh, hi, how's it going? And then they just hate it. And they're like, oh, get me the hell out of here. Like that.
Yeah.
Not very happy to see her supporters.
What was Bill like?
He's actually very personable. I hate to admit that because, he's such a horrible person. But he actually is charismatic. It's kind of hard not to like him if you're in the same room with him. But he's a pervert. I remember this was when I had blonde hair and I was in my early 20s just starting to work for Project Veritas because this was, almost 10 years ago now. And I was a little heavier back then, right? I've lost a lot of weight since then. And I remember that I was wearing not like a low-cut shirt, but it was like a V-neck. And, when you lose weight, you lose your boobs, right? And I remember I was like a little bit more full in the chest. And the photo that I have of me and Bill Clinton, it's kind of funny because his eyes are actually like looking at my chest. So just typical.
He's very focused. He's a very focused guy.
Very
when
focused.
he sees things he wants, his eyes go straight to it.
It's a funny photo. I have it filmed in my studio, but...
Is that online or no? Is there a picture of
It should be. I mean, it may, I don't know, because a lot of this stuff was on my social media before I got canceled everywhere, but it might be. I think there was like a Daily Mail article that did a story on me when I was running for Congress a couple years ago, and there was a photo.
Interesting. So you're in there. So you're working with Project Veritas. So what was it like working for James O'Keefe versus Alex Jones? They're both extremely creative, brilliant, and they're very good marketers. The way they get things done, brilliant. But what was it like working with James versus Alex?
So I wasn't formally employed by Infowars and Alex Jones. I was more of a contributor, like in the field contributor. And back in the day, before the bankruptcy and before the Sandy Hook lawsuit and before all the censorship, like before they completely got shut down everywhere, Infowars used to do a lot of contests, and they used to build up a lot of independent journalists. And so if you had videos, you could submit it to them, and they would actually pay you for your content. And so that's what I would do, because when I left Project Veritas, I started my own media company, and that's how I was able to survive, really, is I would do content, and then I would submit it to Infowars, and then Infowars would pay me for my content, and then they would air it. And that's how I was able to support myself when I went independent, when I was trying to figure everything out. James, he's an amazing person. He's like a brother to me. He's extremely creative, extremely intelligent. He really taught me the basics about intel gathering and how to develop a cover and how to protect a source and the importance of protecting a source. And obviously I learned all this stuff when I was studying journalism in college, but it's completely different when you're in the field. And I mean, he's brilliant. He's brilliant. And I was there from the beginning, right? Before all the scandals and, the attempted coup to push him out of his own company. And so I know the things that they say about James O'Keefe are not true, right? Because he's one of the best people I know. And look, I don't know how it is for you, because obviously you work in business and you venture into politics with your podcast. But if you work in politics, you don't really have a lot of friends, honestly. People are very fake, and people will sell you under the bus, throw you down the river to make a buck. I mean, there's no loyalty in this industry. And I've met a lot of people. I've met everybody, really, just like you've probably met everyone. I could tell you stories about everyone. And I'd say that out of all the people I've met and all the people who I considered a friend or an ally or, an acquaintance, James O'Keefe is the one person that has truly been my friend. I mean, he really, honestly.
Out of everybody.
Out of everybody.
We've had James on 3 times.
He's like the most loyal person I know.
Really?
The most loyal.
Okay, so when you're saying intel gathering, okay, you went to school, you learned it from school and from James. What are some methods of intel gathering?
Well, I used to do a lot of undercover work. I don't do undercover work so much anymore. But like I said, when I was undercover, I had to develop a cover. Like I said before, I'm originally a blonde. So I had my blonde hair.
To recover now.
It's hard to recover, yeah, because, eventually I had long blonde hair, and then I had to cut it off, because if you get burned, eventually you get burned when your stories come out. Because when your stories come out, eventually the subjects are going to realize that you were recording them. So in order to continue going undercover throughout the election season, I had long blonde hair. I had to chop my blonde hair off and then have short hair. Then I dyed it brown. Then I dyed it black. And then, it's very hard to go back after you dye your hair black to bleach blonde hair like I used to have. So dyeing your hair, developing a different cover, using disguises, of course, but also just having a believable alias. You have to be in it for the long term. There's long-term operations, and then there's what we used to call the smash and grabs operations. Those, of course, were, you go to an event and you meet somebody, you're at a bar, they're drinking, they're drunk, you're probing them for information, and then they give you a soundbite or something that's pretty damning. They used to call me the queen of the smash and grabs at Project Veritas, because I was the best at getting into all the events that were kind of impossible to get into, or getting to the front of the line, and then getting these people on camera very quick, right? A smash and grab is when you go in, you have an assignment, you get your target, and you're out of there, and that's that. There's no long-term relationship building, no long-term, image development, anything like that. But for the more long-term operations, you have to be very patient. You have to be willing to sometimes be embedded for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. I mean, the longest I was ever embedded was an entire year for one operation. And you also have to not be spooked easily, because you can imagine the idea of wearing a hidden camera is it sounds a lot easier than it actually is. And there were a lot of people who were interviewed by Project Veritas to work for James O'Keefe who ultimately failed the test because they had such severe anxiety when they put a hidden camera on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So some people, when they put it on, they get nervous, and you can tell they got it on.
A lot of people quit because they thought, I want to work for James O'Keefe. I want to go undercover. I want to do undercover journalism, but they couldn't handle wearing a hidden camera.
What is the profile? When you're hiring people like that, what are you looking for? What qualities are you looking for?
Well, people who are trustworthy, people who are tenacious, people who are good on their feet.
Same thing.
When I worked at Veritas, they didn't have background checks now they have a very, detailed process. And of course, James is in the process of trying to get Project Veritas back. So it's now OMG, O'Keefe Media Group. But towards the end of my time at Veritas, the background check process became very intense. I mean, they actually contracted and hired out like former CIA officials, former FBI officials, former foreign intel officers to come in and assist with training. We did a training exercise at Eric Prince's ranch, I believe out in Wyoming, if I recall. Yeah,
he's fully qualified. Did you guys ever have anybody?
We did actual intel and at one point firearms training as well. And so when I first started at Project Veritas, though, that didn't exist. It was after the presidential election when, Veritas became a household name and they received a really big cash infusion because we published the October surprise that really, even CNN said, helped lead to President Trump's victory.
This is which one? This is the laptop?
This is the Democracy Partners. This was in 2016. The Democracy Partners expose, where we did a long-term undercover operation of a guy named Scott Fovel and Bob Creamer, this group called Democracy Partners, and caught them on camera talking about how they were essentially going to facilitate a voter fraud scheme to help Hillary Clinton get elected as president, and also caught them on camera admitting how they paid agitators to show up to Trump rallies to instigate violence in something that they called bird dogging, so that they could try to create political violence at Trump rallies to create a false image that Trump supporters were violent. So we got them all on camera admitting this. It was a massive story. Sting Video purports to show Democrats. Yeah. Big expose. I mean, even CNN was forced to cover it. And ultimately, it was a massive blow to Hillary's campaign.
This
in October.
And Comey. Those two were not good for her.
In 2016,
but did you guys ever hire people that they came in and they try to infiltrate, Project Veritas to learn about what was going on the inside?
No, because the vetting process was so strict at Project Veritas that never would have been able to happen.
Even at the beginning?
Yeah.
Got it. Because you're saying later on you got some CIA people to train, but maybe in the beginning somebody would try to get in there.
Yeah, because they still did basic level background checks, but it wasn't anything as intense as, we, at one point in time, they were making people do polygraph tests and be interviewed by the people who were out of Washington, D.C. I remember they actually flew all of the potential hires and people that passed the first and second round of the vetting process at Project Veritas to Washington, D.C. to sit down for an interview with the people that did the polygraph tests on the 9/11 conspirators.
Wow.
So these are people who have interviewed actual convicted terrorists, really bad guys, right? And that's the level of vetting that Project Veritas did towards the end when I, finished working there. They hired actual operatives, people that worked with the FBI, the CIA.
Very impressive.
Foreign intel. Yeah, foreign intel.
The catalog of, the stuff that's been done is very impressive.
It's not like I'm some armchair investigative journalist. Oh, here I am investigating online, finding receipts. I have had actual formal training, right?
Well,
formal training.
More and more people mock you, and the more and more you keep showing up and stories happen, gradually it's kind of like, well, maybe this girl actually is getting real intel and she's getting information. Like, for example, the Waltz situation, National Security Council. How did that happen? When all of a sudden you're like, I think you got people on the inside that are more, and then the picture shows up, signal, he's texting others, messaging others. How did that happen?
Well, obviously, that was a huge blunder by Michael Waltz. And then when the reporters started publishing the images of the signal chats, I saw that Alex Wong, who was his deputy, was the creator of the chat. And so I started doing some digging into Alex Wong and quickly discovered things that were massive red flags. He has family connections to the CCP. His father-in-law, who has since passed away, was tied to AsiaSat, which was, the largest satellite company in Asia that controls all the satellites for the Chinese military, right? The Chinese Communist Party's military, People's Liberation Army. You had his wife, who was involved in persecuting and prosecuting J6ers under the Biden administration. And ultimately, my investigation landed on the desk of Donald Trump. And then I got a phone call one day from President Trump after he had an Oval Office meeting with Michael Waltz about Signalgate, and he asked me if I would come to Washington, D.C. to brief him on these matters. And so I brought a list of names with me to the White House, and I had an Oval Office meeting with President Trump, and I brought a packet, as the media reported, and I was in the room, and there were multiple people there. It was Susie Wiles, Sergio Gore, a couple congressmen, a few people. And eventually Michael Waltz himself walked into the room. And everybody knows what happened next. He got the NSA director fired.
What was his reaction? Is he trying to plead that that's not true, this is not what I did? Or is it kind of like he got caught?
Like Michael Waltz used to text me. He used to talk to me. Not anymore. So he didn't even want to look at me when I was in the room because he knew why I was there. And he kept on saying, I did the vetting. I did the vetting. I did the vetting. Well, obviously you didn't do vetting, right? How do you, my problem is like, who's doing the vetting, right? No one's really doing the vetting, and this is the problem. And so this is what has happened since the beginning of the administration. There's a vetting crisis. We saw this during the first term, and now we've even seen it on steroids in the second term, where people in key intel roles, national security roles, people who are supposed to be in the intel agencies and the Department of Defense and these key roles protecting the president, all of these positions that we saw weaponized by Obama and Joe Biden to attack Donald Trump, they haven't cleaned house. And so obviously President Trump, I don't want to disclose the contents of a private meeting with the president, but he was pissed off. He was very pissed off, and he instructed people to be fired after that meeting. And then it was Liberation Day, of course, the day that I had my meeting, and the president was in a rush because he had to finalize his speech before announcing the tariffs on the lawn of the White House. And so it was quick. But obviously, the next day, a lot of people were fired.
Were you there when he fired Waltz? Like, did he tell, when Waltz walked in the room, was it like, you're done? Was it?
Because they gave him some time. And Waltz technically wasn't really fired. This is the thing with the current administration is, I think, and I don't know if this is a new strategy that they've employed since the first term, because they fired so many people in such, untraditional ways, rapid ways.
And I remember J.D. Vance is like, no, it's not really fired. We actually, some would say he got a bigger job of UN. I don't know what the position
they're not really firing anybody. So they say that they fire people, but even the 100 people who they fired from the NSC after all of this, they just rotate them. They recycle them to other positions in the administration. I don't want to speak for the administration because I don't work for them, despite what the media says. But honestly, if I were to take a guess, it's probably because they don't want to have people blowing up the admin like they saw during the first term, where you had people go run to the media and do tell-all books and write podcasts and defect and join the Democrat Party. It was a very dramatic first term, right? Every single week, somebody was getting fired and somebody was writing a tell-all book or going on The View or going on Rachel Maddow or, doing something. Like, they don't want to have a bunch of mini John Boltons running around lambasting the president and writing tell-all books. So maybe it's a strategy. Maybe it's a strategy by the White House, by Susie Wiles, to keep people contained, which is somewhat smart, but also, in the real world, not everybody gets a prize. So it's like, I thought that we were getting rid of DEI in this administration. Are we really getting rid of DEI in the Trump administration if people get to completely screw up and keep their jobs or keep other positions, right?
Different form of DEI.
It's like a different form of DEI, you could make the argument. Yeah. So I think that I would prefer if we could revert back to the old Donald Trump, where he used to say you're fired and that's it, you're fired, that's it, you're gone, bye. But I don't know. I'm not really a fan.
When you left the room that day, did you know that Waltz was going to get fired, or you didn't know until the announcement was made next day?
You could really honestly cut the tension in the room with a knife. I think that the writing was on the wall.
Was he speaking to Waltz? Was it a 30-minute meeting, 2-minute meeting, 45-minute meeting? How long was that meeting with you and Waltz in the room?
It was supposed to be an hour-long meeting. And then the meeting prior to my meeting with some senators ended up running over. And so it was about 30 minutes. And Michael Waltz walked in because he got word that I was in the Oval Office.
He got word, so he just walked in.
He just interrupted the meeting. He crashed the meeting, actually. So it was a private meeting. And he actually crashed the meeting and walked in and started trying to make his case.
Was he emotional? Was he just under control? He was emotional. Got it. I can see that. How could you listen to her? Why would you believe her? Who is she? Do you realize who I am? I would never do that to you. That kind of a vibe, or no?
I mean, more like, actually, I have it handled. It's not like you think. Oh, there's more to the story. He didn't attack me. Like I said, he didn't even speak to me when he saw me in the meeting. He wouldn't even make eye contact with me, but you could tell he was definitely heated.
Okay, so while you're in there and this whole...
and he interrupted the meeting right as I was about to show President Trump a video. I was about to show President Trump a video to be like, well, the reason why Michael Waltz might not, have such strict standards for vetting, he says he does vetting. I don't believe him. He claims he vetted these people. Obviously not, right? Because if he vetted them, I wouldn't have been able to uncover all this stuff. That being said, I was going to make the case that maybe the reason why Michael Waltz doesn't really think that being a Trump hater is grounds for termination is because Michael Waltz himself was a Trump hater. And I was about to, it's kind of weird. Michael Waltz walked into the Oval Office right as I was pulling out my cell phone to show Trump a video of Michael Waltz on, an ad that he filmed in 2016 saying that Donald Trump was against veterans and that, as a veteran, he thought that Donald Trump was a disgrace. And I was about to play the ad for the president in the Oval Office, and then that's when he walked in.
So he never saw it?
Oh, he saw it.
Okay.
I just had to send it another way.
So why does the president trust you so much? For him, can you imagine for him to say, I want Laura Loomer to come to the White House and sit down and brief us on this? Is it loyalty? Is it consistency? Is it credibility? Is it disruption? Why do you think that is?
I don't want to speak for the president, but I know that President Trump really values loyalty, and I've always been loyal. There's a lot of people out there who like to say, oh, I've been loyal since day one, and a lot of people owe their careers to Trump. And I've seen you talk about this too, like you have the woke right now. A lot of these people who are attacking President Trump and saying he's not America first, and calling him out, saying that he's a puppet for Israel. People that are just bad-mouthing him, they owe their entire career to Donald Trump. These people wouldn't be anything without Donald Trump putting them on the map and blowing them up. So you have a lot of ingrates in the Republican Party and a lot of people that have turned on him. I mean, look at Ron DeSantis, right? He owes his entire political career to Donald Trump. And then Ron DeSantis completely stabbed him in the back and ran for president and spent $500 million running against him in the middle of all the indictments and the arrest and, just political persecution. So I think that it has to do with loyalty, but also, too, I'm very aggressive. I'm a very, very aggressive person, which is why a lot of people have very strong feelings about me. Some people like me. Some people, I don't really think people like me. They either love me or they hate me. It's not like a lukewarm feeling, right? It's not like, oh, yeah, I kind of like or I kind of don't. People either really love me or they hate me. And you'll probably see this in the comments for this podcast, too. So I don't really go along to get along. And maybe President Trump sees part of himself in me. Again, I don't want to speak for him, but he's always telling me that he trusts me.
Do you think you're...
I mean, I think he trusts me. I would assume.
If he invites you to the White House and 6 people this is the video that we all watch. Can you play this video, Rob? This is CNN reporting on Waltz after being fired after a Laura Loomer meeting. That's literally what the description says.
Advisor Mike Waltz just got on Marine One with President Trump, but both of them declined to answer shouted questions about the several National Security Council staffers who were abruptly ousted from their jobs.
If you go to that house in the back, that's white.
President Trump had with
and
the far-right activist
right
Laura
there. That's
Loomer.
You right there.
Yes, she's the person who before has said things like 9/11 was an inside job and other conspiracies that she spread.
Pause it right
she's
there. You have, and that's Lutney giving you a hug. I mean, you got influence with them. So who do you think anybody on his team is more loyal to him than you are?
I don't know. I mean, look, I can't speak for them, right? I can only speak for myself, but I would definitely say that I'm more loyal than certain people who work for him. He does have a lot of loyal people who work for him, but look, I don't want to disparage them, but I would say that I've certainly been with President Trump a lot longer than some of the people who work for him have, and that's a fact.
Got it. Were you disappointed that he didn't get a job when he got in the White House?
Well, I did get a job. That's the thing. So I did. I got hired 4 times by President Trump, and that was actually mentioned and confirmed.
2024?
Yeah.
Okay. What were the jobs?
So I was hired first in 2023 to work on his campaign, doing research, opposition research and communications. And then there was a huge New York Times story, you could pull it up, in 2023 about, Trump hires Laura Loomer to work on his campaign. And then the staff leaked it to the New York Times because there are people who don't like me and they're jealous, and they tried to blow that up. And then multiple times again on the campaign, like after he won the primary, told me that they floated me for a press secretary. Believe it or not, there was a Daily Mail article that was written about that recently. Like President Trump had a conversation with me on his plane during the campaign about how he would, potentially want me to be his press secretary.
So I'm
not making this up. So there's literally a Daily Mail article about this. It came out like 3 weeks ago. A Daily Mail article about, his first choice for press secretary. And look, I like Caroline Leavitt. I think she's doing a fantastic job. So there's no jealousy or animosity there. I think she does a fantastic job as press secretary. But he did present that as an opportunity to me in the Daily Mail. You could see that too, the controversial MAGA star that Trump floated for Caroline Leavitt's job and why she didn't get the gig. And they said I didn't get the gig because there's certain people who work for Trump who, said, we don't think that she should have that position. And there's a quote in there about how Trump was on the plane and he asked his staff, what do you guys think? Do you think that Laura would be a great press secretary? I think she'd be great. So again, communications, opposition research, and then first floated for press secretary. And then I was told that I would be and I actually haven't ever announced this publicly, so I guess you're going to get the scoop here. I was offered the position of RNC research director, and he personally called Michael Whatley, the head of the RNC, and told him to make me the research director for the Republican Party.
What happened?
Michael Whatley told the president that he was going to do it, and he never did. And apparently, from what I was told, is Michael Whatley freaked out and said that he didn't want me on his FEC report.
Got it.
Because,
Michael Whatley didn't do what the president told him to do? That's pretty wild.
Yeah, so... it was a conversation with Sergio Gore and the president and Michael Whatley, and he didn't listen. So I was supposed to be the RNC research director, and that didn't happen because Whatley, I guess, decided that he didn't want me on the RNC FEC report. And for those watching that don't know what an FEC record is, it's like the public disclosures for who's getting paid and, who's working there.
And he didn't want to put that on the disclosure. He didn't want to disclose that on the report.
He didn't want me working as the RNC research director because he said that it would create a media backlash if I was on their FEC report. That's what I was told.
Because
Michael Whatley had told me on the phone privately after the conversation with President Trump that it was going to happen, and then he never called me again.
So is he still on the inside or no? Is he still a party chair?
He's still at the RNC.
Wow. So he still is. Okay. Is he?
So that was the third job, and then the fourth one was. So again, I was offered like some kind of research role, but then also to advising on Panama. So I was told that I could work at the State Department advising on Panama. That was the fourth job. And that was because, a lot of my work helped influence the Panama policy. The president talking about taking back the Panama Canal. I'm the person who told President Trump in 2023 and 2024 during the presidential election, there's a CCP invasion taking place in the Darien Gap. When I went down there and I was in the jungle with, just basically in the jungle in these migrant camps by myself with Michael Yon exposing all this, endangering my life. I could have been kidnapped or raped by some of these Tren de Agua gangbangers there. I mean, I'm not exaggerating this. It's very dangerous to go down there. There's no security whatsoever.
You went by yourself with one person?
I went with Michael Yon and his team. But we were in the migrant camps, and it was in the jungle, and we were able to get access. And I was uncovering the fact that they had Chinese camps there where they were facilitating the CCP invasion of America through the Darien Gap. I exposed a lot. I exposed how they were using Starlink to facilitate their illegal alien invasion. I mean, there was so much that I uncovered. I hopped on a bus in the middle of the night that was trafficking Somali and Angolan illegal aliens to Costa Rica from Panama, the Darien Gap, who were headed towards the United States of America. And they were all infected with some kind of disease at the time. And you could literally hear the woman, because I speak Spanish, on the bus. And I was like translating all this in Spanish and speaking in Spanish. And the president saw my reporting. And he called me on the presidential campaign, and we were talking about this, and it became part of his platform, right, to take back the Panama Canal. Because I was explaining how the Chinese and the CCP were encroaching on the Panama Canal, and how when you first land in Panama, the first thing that you see, and I sent these photos to Marco Rubio and President Trump, the photos that show that, you know, the airport has a giant sign that says "Welcome to Panama," and it's in Chinese lettering, and it says the Bank of China. They actually took that sign down before Marco Rubio arrived to Panama. And you'll see that, you know, Marco Rubio was able to get the president of Panama to agree to not participate in the Belt and Road Initiative. Well, who do you think gave Marco Rubio and President Trump those photos and those videos of the Chinese taking down those signs? I am. I'm the person who did that. So I was supposed to work with the State Department in some capacity, advising on Panama, advising with the ambassador to Panama. His name is Kevin Cabrera, a personal friend of mine. He was the former Florida State Director. None of this has been reported in the media. And those are 4 jobs that I was offered by the president that were basically stolen from underneath me by jealous staffers. Yeah, so that's 100% true. In the profile piece, I sent those photos to the president.
You send those 2 photos to the president?
Yes. So everything that I'm saying is checking out. It's not like I'm not even looking at the screen right now. I'm telling you this and you're pulling it up. And what did I tell you? It says welcome. It says Bank of China, right? Everything I'm saying is checking out. It says welcome to Panama, Bank of China.
Panama is with great speed attempting to take down the 64% of signs which are written in Chinese. They're all over zone because China controls Panama Canal. Panama is not going to get away with this. By the way, the big part
I was on the phone with the president when he typed out that Truth Social post.
You were on the phone when he typed out this Truth Social?
Yes.
Okay.
He was sitting in the Oval Office with Marco Rubio when he typed that.
So I just watched the Roger Stone's documentary for the second time. I'm sitting there with my wife and I wanted my kids to watch this documentary, so I put it in. Get me Roger Stone. And
I love Roger.
Yeah, and I know you guys said something. That's actually not where I'm going. My question with you is when I'm watching everything you're saying, remember the time that in a documentary Trump fired Roger. Roger's like, no one fired me. I quit. That whole back. I don't know if you've seen the documentary.
Oh, yeah.
There's
No,
an
I've watched
exchange
it a
there.
million times. Yeah, great documentary.
I almost feel like, you know, your trajectory, well, you weren't a lobbyist, but your trajectory is like you're creating enemies outside of Trump that Trump trusts you, but in order for you to get a job on the inside that's publicly announced, that's an official job, you got to kind of win some people over. If you don't, you're never going to have that happen to you. And, you know, so that's kind of what happened with Roger. Trump probably liked getting his insight and feedback that he gives on different angles because of who he is. People like you, Roger, are wired in a very different way. There's an element of fearlessness in there.
Yeah, and I will say a lot of my skills and a lot of what I know today is because of Roger. He's one of my closest friends and he's a mentor of mine. I've known Roger since I was 18 years old, and I'm now 32.
So would you say you're kind of following that?
Yeah, I mean, Roger is somebody who has, you know, been with me from the beginning. And like I said, I call my 2 mentors are Roger Stone and James O'Keefe.
So 14 years will be what, 2011? What was happening in 2011? Why were you involved? Because 2011, Obama's president. So how did you get into the Roger? I had just
moved to Florida. I was 18, and I had moved to Florida for college after I originally did a semester at Mount Holyoke, which is a women's college.
Wow.
And I just, you know, it's a great school, but I couldn't handle all of, you know, the liberal indoctrination. So I left. I mean, Mount Holyoke was basically considered Harvard for women when Harvard was all men. So great school. You know, I had a 4.0 GPA. It's not like I couldn't keep up with it. It was very expensive, and I just didn't want to pay all that money to be indoctrinated. So I moved to Miami and started working full-time, took over the College Republican Club, and Roger used to go and speak to different Republican clubs, and Fort Lauderdale is not too far from Miami, so I would drive up and I would go to his talks. He used to host these, you know, like cigar nights and different events at different Italian restaurants and whatnot, where he would speak to different, you know, it's like meetups, right? And he was always very accessible. You could see Roger walking around in Fort Lauderdale all the time. It's not like he was hard to reach. And we started following each other on Instagram and just started messaging each other, and we became friends. And I started going to his events. And then when I started working for James O'Keefe, sometimes Roger would stop by the office too in Project Veritas. But yeah, no, a lot of I'd say that a lot of the dark arts tricks that I've learned over the years are from Roger Stone.
The stuff he did is just epic, what things he did. And some of it backfired on him, and they did it on him, but
yeah, he's an icon.
He's an icon when it comes down to the space on what he did.
And we wouldn't have President Trump today if it weren't for Roger Stone.
I don't
because
think
really,
so. Yeah.
you know, Roger Stone is the person. I mean, there's a lot of people that love to say, oh, you know, I was there from Trump since the beginning. Trump's president because of me.
No.
If there's one person that can
Late
say
70s,
Trump
early
is
80s.
president, and really I'm not even talking 2015, 2016, I'm talking the 80s. The
That's
first
right.
time that President Trump first started talking about running for president is Roger Stone. So Roger deserves a lot more respect and credit than I think he gets.
I don't think he's going to get it, though, because he does what you do. It's tough to me, he has mine, because I respect the game that he's got. It's tough to be Roger, because you're going to be backstabbed many times, and you kind of, Roger's the one you want to call and talk to, but you want to make sure nobody else wants to know if you're a president. Like, who'd you talk to? Nobody. This is my intel. No. You called Roger, because Roger's going to look at the world in a different way, and it sounds like that's kind of you. But you're the social media era of Roger. But let me go to a question. So what happened between Bessent and Musk? If you got your intel, you got people on the inside. We heard 50 different stories, right? The black eye where Elon saying, well, it was my kid X that really punched me in the head, punched me in the eye, and Trump's like, oh, yeah, you should know really X. He's really this. And then stories comes out afterwards, and, Bessent's being asked. He doesn't really fully answer, but he does kind of talk about he'll stand up. So what do you think really happened there? If you know what happened there, maybe you don't know what happened in there.
I honestly don't know. I mean, I know that Elon and Bessent, I can say they would fight a lot from my understanding. I know for a fact that they would get into screaming matches, and they don't like each other. And I think there's probably personality clashes. I think that whenever you have very successful, wealthy men all in the same room, competing for the president's attention, competing to be number one, you're obviously going to have clashes, right? You're going to have fights, because you can't really have too many alphas, I guess, right? Too many alphas in the same room or the same space at one time without people fighting. That being said, I think that both of them have legitimate criticisms of each other. I don't agree with what Elon did, trying to blow up Trump on the way out. I don't agree with him, falsely accusing the president of being on the Epstein list. But at the same time, I do think that, a lot of Scott Bessent's background is fair game and fair for criticisms. I mean, he has an association with George Soros and some of the people who Scott Bessent has brought in to the Treasury Department, and who he's affiliated with even after the election. Trump haters, people who were very anti-Trump in the closing days leading up to the presidential election. So I would just say that I think that there's legitimate criticisms of both of them.
Do you think there was a fight? Do you think there was a punch? Do you think there is
I know that there was. I know for a fact that there was a screaming match, like a verbal fight, like a verbal fight. I don't know if it got physical, and I don't want to, I don't want to speculate. I have no idea how Elon got his black eye. I do know that they had a screaming match, though.
Do you know over what? Do you know what the topic was?
Well, there were several screaming matches, but one of the screaming matches had to do with the fact that Scott Bessent, fired, but, didn't really fire, because nobody really gets fired in the Trump administration, right? Relocated or reassigned Doge's pick, Elon's pick, for one of the IRS positions. And he did so without consulting with him a day after he was appointed. And that's, I believe, one of the things that really set Elon off and led to them having a screaming match with each other. It was one of the Doge-appointed officials at the IRS.
Got it. And
Bessent decided that he didn't want him in that position and reassigned him.
Did Bessent feel...
And I think this was actually reported a few days after the fact. I mean, I knew about it. I was asked not to say anything about it. And, part of getting intel is having people trust that they can give you information and not say anything about it. But now it's out there, right? So it's not like it's proprietary anymore. It's not like I'm leaking it. It's already been reported, right? But you asked me one of the ways that I'm able to get intel. Well, I talk to some of the most powerful, richest people in the world, right? In corporate America, in politics, people all around the world. And you have to show that you can keep a secret, right?
Yeah.
You have to show that you can keep a secret.
Do you think there is a chance that I don't know what fellow said this yesterday about the fact that, hey, Republicans, 2026 is around the corner. One of the things we got to figure out is to unite Trump and Musk together. Do you think there's a likelihood that the two of them will unite?
Probably not. I think that there's been so much gasoline poured on the fire since, Elon's last day, and just all of the, the bickering back and forth, whether it be the allegations that he's on the Epstein list and, the threats about revoking and canceling the government contracts. I don't really see there being any type of unification. I mean, look, Elon himself has his own independent political operation now, right? The America Party, he has his own political consultant. So he said that he wants to fund people that didn't vote against the big, beautiful bill. Who knows? I mean, I don't know how political he's going to continue being. He doesn't really seem to be talking politics much these days since he left the White House. He's more focused on his companies. But I don't know, as we get closer to 2026, I don't really think that his threats carried much influence. I mean, he's certainly an influential person, but even threatening to primary every single person who voted for the big, beautiful bill didn't change anybody's votes if you look at the people who actually voted for the big, beautiful bill. So, it makes you wonder, like, how heavy is his political influence? Yeah. Obviously, he has money. He can certainly influence things financially. But in terms of his word against President Trump's, it's pretty obvious that people value President Trump's word more, politically speaking, that is, right, than Elon Musk's. Because if Elon's word was more powerful than President Trump's, you would have seen the entire Congress vote against the big, beautiful bill.
And they didn't. So that's one way of saying, I don't think you can replace me. At least not now. But again, keep in mind, a lot of times people change because there were a lot of Republicans when the president lost in 2020. I was in different fundraisers and I would watch people who were diehard Trump guys in 2016 through 2020. And they started saying, well, you know what are you going to do to distance yourself from the president? Because he's becoming very, he needs to stop talking about and he needs to do this and what he's talking about. And are you more Team DeSantis? And you kind of watched certain communities turn on the president very quickly, and they were no longer worried about his threats. There was a midterm that they thought it was going to be a red wave, didn't happen. Like, well, the president's endorsement is no longer as heavy as it was before. So who knows? These politicians sometimes won't show the fear unless if that person gets more and more powerful. So maybe they're not afraid of Trump, afraid of Musk right now, but in the next 2 to 3 years, 4 years, if they see Musk is more serious about what he wants to do, maybe they'll flip. Who knows?
Look, I don't think that any of these people are loyal to Trump. Most of them didn't even come out and support him when he first filed to run for the second time, right after the stolen election. They sat on the sidelines. I mean, a lot of them were kind of waiting, especially here in Florida. Everyone was like, oh, well, DeSantis is going to run. It was already, an open secret. I'm the one that forced it out of DeSantis when I almost got arrested at his book signing. And that's the first time that I had met President Trump before, but that's when my closeness, right, in terms of my access to Trump and the campaign really began. And that was in the aftermath of President Trump announcing the second time around. If you recall, Ron DeSantis was doing a shadow presidential campaign via his book tour. And I showed up. I organized no, that's a Comey. I think if you just go type in Trump supporters threatened with arrest at DeSantis book signing. You could type it in on Google or whatever browser you use. So I knew that Ron DeSantis was going to be running. I had just finished a 2022 congressional campaign, and I had known, right? I had known that I've known since 2021, actually, that Ron DeSantis was going to run for president because some of my donors for my campaign, right, these Palm Beach millionaires, billionaires, I had lunch with one of them one day, and he's an older guy, right? I won't say his name just to protect his privacy, but very well-off individual, lives on Palm Beach Island. Mega donor, right, who lives in Florida on Palm Beach Island. And he wanted to catch up and have lunch and just talk about things. And we were having lunch one day and, just chit chat. Oh, how's everything going? Oh, it's great. What are you up to? Oh, I just, left this fundraiser for Ron DeSantis last night. And mind you, this was 2021. This was about a week after January 6th. okay, week after January 6th or so, like 2 weeks after January 6th. And he's like, oh, I just left this fundraiser hosted by, another big donor. I won't say their name for the sake of privacy. And, we raised $2 million for Ron DeSantis. And he asked me to be on his presidential finance committee. Mind you, the guy who I'm having lunch with in 2021, right after J6, he's like almost 80, right, at this time. So I figured he's having like a senior moment. Oh, presidential, because we were not even into 2022 yet, right, which is when Governor Ron DeSantis had his reelection campaign. So I gently correct him, right, trying not to embarrass him at lunch. Oh, you mean gubernatorial? And he's like, no. He doubles down. He goes, no, it's presidential finance. And I said, no, you're talking about his gubernatorial, right? And then I'm like starting to get frustrated because he goes, no, his presidential. I'm like, what are you talking about? I said, 2022 hasn't even happened yet. He's running for governor. What are you talking about? And he goes, oh, I wasn't supposed to mention that. Don't talk about it.
This is in 2021.
Yeah. 2021. So he was already forming his presidential finance committee in the aftermath of J6. Mind you, it was like literally 2 weeks after January 6th. Because I remember I was out of the country. I was in El Salvador for January 6th. And I came back, I think, on the 15th. And so this was like 2 or 3 weeks after J6. And I remember sitting there like, holy shit, like he's running for president. This is crazy. And so I knew all throughout my entire second congressional campaign when I ran in the villages in Central Florida that Ron DeSantis was going to run against Trump. And so naturally, I just really developed this animosity towards Ron DeSantis. And I knew that his book tour was going to just be a shadow presidential campaign because it was Rupert Murdoch who hates Trump. And Rupert Murdoch gave him a book deal through HarperCollins Publishing, which was his book, his publishing company. So I staged the idea. I said, all right, let's force it out of him. Nobody wants to take the first shot at Ron and he's denying the fact that he's running for president. So I had this idea. I said, why don't I organize a rally? It's not going to be a protest. It's going to be a rally in support of Trump outside of Ron DeSantis' book signing for the first ever book appearance for his new book, right? The Blueprint for Florida, whatever it was called. And he did it in my district. It happened to be in the district where I ran for Congress. And I showed up. There was nothing anti-DeSantis about it. We were all wearing Trump shirts that said Trump won. And all of a sudden, the video's online, I think you can play it. The security guard comes out from Books A Million and goes, you need to leave. And I was like, why? We're Trump supporters. Isn't this Ron DeSantis? Like, I thought he supports Trump, right? Obviously, I'm being tongue-in-cheek because I know what's going on. Which is why I did what I did. And then eventually the guy goes, I'm going to have you guys arrested. I'm calling the cops if you don't leave. And I said, why would you arrest us? We're Trump supporters. I thought Ron DeSantis was a MAGA governor. What's going on? And he goes, I was just told by DeSantis and his staff that I have to make every Trump person leave. And that's what he said in the video. You can play the video. And this video must have been seen like 27 million times. I mean, it was the video that finally made it safe. It broke the ice for people to finally say, all right, Ron DeSantis is running for president. Because nobody had the balls to do it.
I played the clip.
Yes, why?
Because of what you're wearing?
Because they told me to say anybody run on Trump has to go right now.
We should
Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I have to call LPD now.
That's fine.
Wow. So the security screwed it up for him.
Well, he's being honest.
No, he is. But they flat out. So here's a guy that becomes a governor because, did this cause him to not want to promote the book more because he was worried people like you were going to show up?
He was using the book to get away with violating campaign finance laws. So you have to announce, right? You have to officially announce your campaign within, a certain period if you're already like discussing, fundraising and hiring staff, and you have like an actual set date, right? There's rules about exploratory committees and when you have to file. And so I was making the argument that Ron DeSantis was in violation of FEC rules and FEC laws because he had already been formulating his presidential campaign because, people were telling me they were having meetings, and he was using the governor's mansion in Tallahassee to host all these meetings with campaign officials. Now everybody knows this, right? It's like the biggest open secret of 2024. Everybody's come clean about it. But and books have been written about it. But at the time, people were in denial. They're like, This is not the case. And so I had called out the fact that this was Rupert Murdoch's way to flush DeSantis with money because he didn't own a home. He didn't own a car. He doesn't own anything. He doesn't have anything. Even now, he doesn't have anything. He doesn't own any assets. And so if you look at his financial disclosure forms, how is he going to go up against President Trump, who is an accomplished author, a businessman, a billionaire? And so this was their strategy to have Ron DeSantis have a couple $1 million in his bank account before he officially announced his run for president so that he didn't look pathetic running against Donald Trump, who's a billionaire. I mean, this is true. Ron DeSantis doesn't own a car. He does not own a home. So when he and his wife, Casey Jill, leave the governor's mansion after 2026, who knows where they're going to go? They don't even have a residence.
Ron DeSantis doesn't own a home?
No, he doesn't own a home.
You're right. I just looked it up. Ron DeSantis doesn't own a home.
And he doesn't own a car either. It may have changed, but he got caught using FDLE vehicles outside of their designated purpose, right? So this is the kind of stuff I was calling him out for. He doesn't own anything. You could see he doesn't own a car. He was using a campaign event, and this is how he got caught not owning a car is because he was using an FDLE, Florida Department of Law Enforcement vehicle, and they got in a car accident. The car got in an accident. They had to report it, and then a reporter found out about it. And Ron DeSantis
was driving it, then he got the car?
He was traveling in the car to a campaign fundraiser, which is a violation because you're not allowed to use taxpayer funds. Those are taxpayer-funded vehicles for the sake of campaigning. And so that's how people found out about it.
So you're saying what? You're saying the book was a way of getting some kind of money in his...
The book was a way of helping him because they were promoting it nonstop. He was selling it. They bought all these advanced copies. The Republican Governors Association, RGA, bought thousands of copies of the book that they were giving as, gifts to donors. So creating this facade, right? This astroturfed image that, wow, he must be so popular. Wow, he got a book deal. Wow, it's, Rupert Murdoch's publishing company. Wow, he's all over the New York Post and Wall Street Journal, not disclosing the fact that Rupert Murdoch, who's being sued by Trump, by the way, rightfully so, owns Fox News. He owns the Wall Street Journal. He owns the New York Post. And so this is how they were able to gaslight everybody and astroturf a campaign and make everybody think that he was more popular than Donald Trump. So I was like the main person calling this out and like really taking aggressive shots at people, political operatives, exposing people for taking money on the side, going to these private influencer dinners with DeSantis. And that's when I got a phone call from Trump. I don't usually answer unknown numbers. And after I was threatened with arrest at that event, I got a phone call. And it was and something just compelled me. You ever feel compelled to do something that you don't usually do? Something compelled me to answer this unknown call. And so I answered the phone. It's like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night after I almost just got arrested. And I'm like, hello? And it's like, hi, Laura, this is your favorite president. And I thought it was a prank call. Like, honestly, I thought that somebody was prank calling me. I said, no, really, honestly, don't waste my time. Who is this? I said that on the phone. And they're like, oh, it's your favorite president. I loved what you did to DeSanctimonious today. And Trump and I had about a 15, 20-minute phone call. And he said that he loved it, said, Ron DeSantis was such a snake for running against him, that he owes his entire political career, and that the video finally basically allowed the campaign to get more aggressive against Ron DeSantis. And he said, I think you're great. I really think you're great. I want you to come and meet with me at Mar-a-Lago. And he put me in touch with his staff and his scheduler. And about 2 weeks later, I drove down from at the time I was living in Central Florida, the Villages. I drove down from the Villages to Mar-a-Lago, and I met with the president. And it was in his office that he started asking me all these questions about people, and I was just able to rattle off all this intel and tell him things that his own advisors and his staff hadn't told him.
Do you trust Ron DeSantis today?
I mean,
because him and President Trump are now closer. There's pictures of, his wife golfing with the president, and the president has Ron coming, and they're looking all like everything is good now. There was even a meeting, I think about 6 weeks ago, in a video where, Ron is saying he's being complimentary of the president.
Well, that was the opening of Alligator Alcatraz, right. And the president came down. Look, I think that Ron DeSantis is trying to rehabilitate his political career because he lost so much good faith. Mind you, DeSantis doesn't have a base, okay? It's the MAGA base on lease from President Trump, who was graciously renting him his own base so that he could develop his own political career. He was a no-name congressman. He was a no-name congressman in 2017, 2018. He wasn't even going to get the endorsement. Adam Putnam had all the endorsements, and then it wasn't until Matt Gaetz went into Mar-a-Lago and said, oh, you know, there's this guy. He's my friend. You have to endorse him. And it shocked everybody. Everybody was so pissed about it because they thought, you know, there was so much money, hundreds of millions of dollars behind Adam Putnam. And all of a sudden, Trump endorsed this no-name congressman, Ron DeSantis, and he was able to beat Adam Putnam. And then he barely won his election against Andrew Gillum. And he would not. But he crushed it on the second time, it was about 34,000 votes, and they had to, you know, have it was very contentious. At a recount.
I don't want to take anything away. He crushed it as a governor. I'm not sitting here saying that. And I also think he made a mistake.
Yeah.
And I've openly said it when I had him on. My position hasn't changed. But now when I'm watching this on how the president is comfortable being next to him, and it's. So you're saying this is Ron's way of trying to get back in the good graces of the president?
Yeah, I don't trust Ron. I mean, look, I don't personally trust Ron DeSantis. I think that he's playing a political game and he's trying to rehabilitate his career. I think that had he not run against the president, maybe Trump would have endorsed Casey over Byron. But I think that so much bad blood was created, and especially after, you know, Casey then tried to run for governor of Florida, and then her whole, you know, prospective campaign got blown up with the Hope Florida scandal. I think that he realizes, crap, you know, I don't own a home, I don't own a car, people hate me, I'm now viewed as a traitor, I don't know how I'm going to recover my image, and so maybe he's hoping for some kind of political appointments, because where's he going to go? What's he going to do? Unless he gets hired to go work as some, you know, contractor at some defense company, or they fire someone from the Trump administration and they make Ron DeSantis a political appointee.
Maybe he's going to go buy a car and a house. Maybe it's time to buy a car and a house and kind of go do what many Americans do. If he doesn't own a car and a house, like, it's time to buy a car and a house.
Hey everybody, Laura Loomer here. I'm so excited to finally announce that I've joined Minect. So please be sure that you connect with me on Minect. I can't wait to chat with you, whether it be about politics, investigative journalism, or if you just want to talk to me about your furry friends and how you too can get involved in my passion of animal rescue. Whatever it is, I can't wait for you to connect with me on Minect. So be sure that you contact me today.
Next question for you is with Epstein, okay? And I'm curious to know what position you're going to take with this, because on one end, we've been following the story closely. I know you have as well. Pam Bondi, Florida, you said vetting. A lot of people said they're not being vetted. I don't know if you were referring Pam Bondi as one of the people that wasn't vetted. I don't know how you feel about Cash. I don't know how you feel about Bongino. These are, you know, Bongino is a very trusted guy by many people.
Yeah.
Big podcast, big following, respected, trusted. Even his enemies trust the guy. But when it comes onto the Epstein and the way it was announced, the way it was released, O'Keefe, was it O'Keefe Media Group came in, got Pam Bondi saying what she said, and then she came up and said, well, we found thousands of hours of footage and all this other stuff, and then all of a sudden it was kid porn. How are you processing the entire Epstein debacle?
Well, you know, I've been at the forefront of exposing a lot of this, and I will say, you know, the first mention of those videotapes, even as much as I love O'Keefe, it wasn't O'Keefe. The video caught Pam Bondi at a breakfast admitting that the tapes had child pornography on them. But the first mention of it was actually Roger Stone over a decade ago in his book, The Clintons' War on Women, when he was mentioning, all the flights, Lolita Express, going to Epstein Island, all that stuff, right? And he said that the files have, it's in his book. He says the files have likely been destroyed, and a lot of it is child porn that will never be released to the public. You know, I've known that for a while, too, because I read Roger's book years ago. That being said, I think that it's been handled horribly. I am the reporter who broke this story about Dan Bongino skipping work 2 Fridays ago because he was contemplating resigning. And look, I stand by all of my reporting. Pam Bondi, as I call her, dropped the ball as it relates to the Epstein investigation. I don't think that she was the appropriate person to even be controlling this investigation. When you speak of vetting, it's very important that you look at people's conflicts of interest. Okay, it's very important that if you're going to have transparency, and you know, this is one of the things that happens a lot with these vetting crises in the admin. There's not a lot of focus on conflicts. Well, Pam Bondi was the attorney general of Florida when Epstein was getting away with raping kids and doing everything that he did. If they were aware, because as we saw, the Secretary of Labor, Alex Acosta, under the first Trump administration, submitted his resignation, if you recall, because they didn't vet him. Nobody bothered to ask him if he was involved in anything controversial, and he was involved in the I guess they call it like a non-prosecution plea deal, right? With Jeffrey Epstein, with the various FBI agents who we still don't know about. So that came up during his Senate confirmation hearing, and he had to resign because he said that it created such a distraction for the admin. Now, I want to know if that was enough to get Alex Acosta to resign from the administration, and that was in 2008 when that paperwork was signed. How come Pam Bondi, who only a year or so later became the Attorney General of Florida, okay, same time period, how come she didn't have to resign as Attorney General of the United States for not disclosing the fact that she was the Attorney General when Jeffrey Epstein was getting away with all this? Surely, as the Attorney General of Florida, she would have been aware of a plea deal or some kind of intelligence gathering operation, which we already know from the files that have since been released that Jeffrey Epstein, as part of his plea deal, right, where he was out on release, was able, and I posted these documents too, was supposed to be sharing information with the FBI. Those are in the documents that have Alex Acosta's name on them from 2008. So we know that Jeffrey Epstein was involved with collecting info and sharing info with the FBI. So what made the administration, as much as I love the administration, think that Pam would be the person to do this when that's such an egregious conflict? Wouldn't you agree? I mean, if you were the Attorney General during the time that he was raping kids and getting away with all his crimes, why should you be the one? They should have known that this eventually was going to come up.
So then why? So if the President Trump is seeing one of his handlers, one of his leaders, Pam Bondi, doing what she did, the mishandling, and the supporters on the inside who, these are not the stupid losers. I'm talking about the people that are actually on the inside that are on Trump's side. They're saying, hey, this was a big screw up. How is he handling one of his people made a massive mistake, big blunder that they keep having to rehash? And then other people are like, no, this was actually a bad mistake. You got to fire Pam. You got to fire this. You got to fire that. How is he managing that?
Well, look, the president has made his decision. He's not firing Pam. Bongino was thinking of resigning. And from my understanding, the president had a phone call with him 2 Saturdays ago and was able to kind of, walk him off the ledge. It's great. I like Dan. I think he's great. But there's no denying that there's friction that exists between Kash and Dan and Pam. I mean, who releases a memo about something so consequential on a Sunday evening on 4th of July weekend? Who does that, right? You release...
Who approved that? Pam approved that.
Yeah, Pam approved it. Supposedly, there was a meeting, from what I was told, that took place in the Situation Room. And it was discussed by, White House advisors, Pam, Kash, and Dan. But they hadn't agreed, from what I was told, to a time when it was going to be released. And so Dan and Kash, apparently, from what I know, claimed that they were sidetracked about the contents of the memo and when it was released. Notice nobody signed their names to it, which is kind of bizarre and unprecedented. Generally, when a memo is released, somebody's name or logo's on it. There was nothing on there. That being said, Pam also just loves Fox News. She spends so much time on Fox News, and this is the problem. Was she playing an act? Like, was she trying to play into the energy of the base when she said what she said? The files are on my desk. Billionaires are leaving on private jets to flee accountability. I've seen these tapes. They're absolutely horrific. Blah, 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 blah. Like, what was she doing? Was she just lying? Was she caught up in the fame and all of the attention she was getting and everybody talking about her? Either way, whatever the excuse is, and obviously it's nothing but one big...
She doesn't give me vibes of that. I don't think it's like...
Well, whether it was deliberate or she just got carried away, it created a crisis.
Was the president in there while they're processing this with Kash and Dan, or no?
I don't know if he was in the room or not. I don't know. But I know that a meeting took place.
Okay, would Pam be able to release something like that on 4th of July Sunday at 4 o'clock without the president's approval?
I don't know if she could do it without the president's approval, or if maybe counsel or the DOJ or White House staff signed off on it. I don't know. That's the big question: is why was this released in the way that it was released? And I feel like there probably would have been more of an understanding with Kash and Dan and the president had everybody been on the same page, and that's what caused so much conflict. I think that people speaking out of line and I don't want to say over-exaggerating because I don't know if they over-exaggerated. I don't know if they actually believe these things or if they were over-exaggerating when she says things like the files are on my desk, and she said that a lot of powerful people, and I'm sure you could find the clip, but there's a clip of her saying a lot of powerful people are, leaving the country right now and they're getting on their private jets to escape accountability. Well, who? Who are those people? Why are you not making them a flight risk? Why are you not grounding them? How come DHS or flight marshals aren't grounding their planes? Like, if they're leaving the country, why aren't you stopping them? And there's so many questions and so many inconsistencies with the things that she's saying. And even today, right? Even the statement that she just released today. Consulting with the FBI, my office and the FBI have determined that we'd be happy to interview Ghislaine Maxwell, who's currently in prison in Florida, serving a 20-year sentence, to see if she has any information about anybody who's committed crimes against children. Well, why is this only being done now? How many years has Ghislaine Maxwell been in prison for? Are you saying that the DOJ and the FBI have never taken it upon themselves to interview her? How could you say in the memo that the case was closed when you had already determined that you were closing the case before interviewing Ghislaine? So now everybody's kind of wondering, wait a second, why did this memo say you were closing the case, but now you're backtracking and saying that you're going to go interview her? It's a reverse order, right? So it's a mess. It's a mess.
It is. And the longer she keeps doing that and has a job, it falls on the president.
Look, I think it's unfortunate. Yes, President Trump is the person who appointed her, and President Trump is the person who could remove her. But I also think it's a distraction. While I want to see the Epstein files released, and I do think it's of significance, and it's something that people, obviously care a lot about, President Trump never promised that he was going to release the files. And so to the president's credit, I will say he was asked about it kind of, on the cuff by Lex Friedman on his podcast. And he said, I'll take a look at it, right? He said, are you going to release the Epstein files if you win? And he says, I'll take a look at it. It was never part of Agenda 47 to release the Epstein files. So a lot of people are attacking Trump, falsely accusing him of being a pedophile, saying he's a pedo protector. I think that's horrible. In the scheme of things, President Trump is doing an amazing job, and he doesn't get nearly enough credit that he deserves for all of the victories that he's had since starting his second term.
I think a lot of people give him credit. I think he's
there are
getting
so
plenty
many
of
people,
credit.
and again, it goes back to this woke right faction that was shit talking Trump this last week, saying, I'm done with him. I'm not supporting him. People never should support him ever again. It's like, were you ever really with Trump? I think there's a lot of people that are looking at the fact that Trump's going to be gone in 3.5 years, and they're trying to pivot. They're trying to pivot to secure other financial opportunities because their grift of leeching off of Donald Trump and sucking the life out of him after he basically created them and gave them their careers over these last 8 years is coming to an end.
I fully am on the page with that one because that's a different story. I think
that's what I think.
Built a lot of people's careers, no question.
Like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens. I mean, there's so many of these people,
I don't know if I would say Tucker. I think Tucker had a career before him. But I think, and I'm not even...
Well, after he got fired by Fox, he certainly created his career. I mean, Trump could have easily nuked Tucker. Those Dominion lawsuit records that came out with Fox News, Tucker Carlson, he said he hates Trump. He said that Trump is a satanic force. You could pull it up. You could pull these records up. Nobody wants to talk about this because it's like taboo in conservative media. Everybody kisses his ass.
I don't think so. I don't think that's what it is. What I'm saying is, what I'm qualifying here, Laura, is... Tucker had a job at MSNBC and CNN way before he got a job at Fox.
Yeah.
And Tucker's been relevant for a long time. Of course, not at the levels he is now. His podcast is doing great, top 5, top 4.
But that's what I'm trying to say is that I don't think that his independent career as not working for a major network, independent, Tucker Carlson
Network. You think it's purely on Trump? I'm a Trump guy, and a lot of people would say, like, I'm neutral with Tucker. I think Tucker, for a guy to be his age, to have his kind of money, to be on the road, traveling around the world, interviewing people, most people don't want to do that, and they're not going to do this. So I'm going to give him his credit there. Now, let me come back to the Trump side.
I just personally think that when I say it's on Trump, I'm saying Trump was very gracious after those text messages came out. What I'm saying is that Tucker, he's created his own platform and he deserves credit for that. But Trump could have easily nuked him, and I don't think he would have been as popular post the firing of at Fox News, had Trump actually given him what he deserved, which was a lambasting after those text messages came out. I mean, he was very derogatory, saying, oh, the election wasn't stolen. I can't wait till we don't have to talk about Trump anymore. His supporters are a bunch of cousin effers. I mean, I'm not making this up. You can go look it up and see for yourself. Very derogatory things. Trump never nuked him. He could have put out one True Social post and nuked his entire independent career, but he didn't do it. And so
why do you think he didn't?
I don't know. Maybe I think that President Trump is a very nice person. I know that he doesn't get portrayed that way in the media, but
I don't think he wants the people to know that.
But he's too generous, and I've told him this in my private conversation with him. I'm like, you're too nice. People think that Trump's some kind of monster that, oh, I'm going to fire you, I'm going to ruin your life, I'm going to do this. He actually gives a lot of people a lot of second chances. And sometimes I've had conversations with him, Mr. President, this person effed you so hard. This person has done this to you. Why do you take their phone calls? Why do you do this? Why do you do that? Oh, it's just whatever the reason is that he says. It's mind-boggling to me in the conversations that I have with him occasionally, because he's much more forgiving and gracious than people give him credit for. I mean, he really doesn't need to deal with a lot of these people. He doesn't need anything from them. And he really could have nuked a lot of people's careers, but he has decided not to. I don't know why. I don't know why he hasn't.
I think you have to.
It's like self-restraint, but he is way more considerate of people's futures than people think. They think, oh, he just wants to,
because he's a number one above everybody.
Yeah.
You have to be. You don't have to be. A lot of people don't have to be. He has to be. And I think I actually applaud him for the approach he's taking, because the average person couldn't do what he's doing.
Yeah.
I actually applaud him for what he's doing. And that's why he's shown more signs of being president of America instead of just a president of a party, instead of a president. I think he is more and more getting closer to, becoming the where history books are going to say this guy went from 2016, the way he went about it the first 4 years, and now the way he's doing in 2024. Very different approach. But going back with Tucker,
diplomatic, yeah.
Very diplomatic. But going back to the Tucker situation, and we have it here. It's not like we haven't read it. I think we even talked about it on the podcast, where, what Tucker said about him. But at the same time,
everything I said, I'm not making anything up. Demonic force. I hate him passionately. We're so close to being able to ignore him.
Do you want to pull up the J.D. Vance stuff?
No,
we can literally go through. We can literally go through every single person on Trump's administration.
Trust me, I know.
Yeah.
The producer who worked for Tucker, Alex Pfeiffer's now working in the White House. He called Trump supporters cousin fuckers. I mean, that's in the text messages too. So we could go through all of them, but. I'm just telling you that, there's.
So what do you think about okay, so maybe let me ask this other question for you. What do you think about what's happened the last, I want to say 2 years? No, not October 7th, what, 2022? 2022, right? 3 years? Is it 2022, Rob? I think it's 2022. So after that, what's happened with 2022? So what's happened with the, challenges, Israel, Hamas, woke right. You're seeing the Dave Smiths of the world. I think you've done a debate with them. I think Adam was the moderator with, was it Zero Hedge, right, which I think they do a great job.
It was the first one. It was the first ever debate of their debate
It was series. The first one when it wasn't even relevant at the time. It was kind of coming up, which eventually became very big. How do you think that's going to be managed by the president? You think it's kind of like, well, leave it alone, let people have the discussions? Or, because you just saw Mike Huckabee. What did Mike Huckabee say about Israel? Did you see what Mike Huckabee said? He's like the last person to say what he said. But Mike Huckabee said something about Israel. If it's Israel before America, I have a problem with it. Can you find a quote?
Yeah, he was criticizing them not allowing more Christian missionaries to come in, and saying that that he wasn't going to stand for that as the ambassador.
Right. So some Christian organizations have been processed for decades, led to serious challenges periodically, financially for the groups. Upon arrival in Israel ambassador, I learned that the changes in the process were creating delays, costs, and significant burdens with paperwork. After meeting with the Minister of Interior, we thought the problem was settled, but organizations continue to have issues. So,
well, they released a statement about this. And look, I respect Mike Huckabee. I know Mike Huckabee, been on his show, great guy. I like him. But your job as the ambassador to Israel is to be a representative of America. It's not to be an evangelist. And so he needs to understand that as a Christian, that Israel is a Jewish state, and they allow for Christians and Muslims to coexist there, but it's a Jewish state. And Israel has no problem with Christians coming in. They've actually said this. They have no problem with Christians coming in, and they'll give visas. You don't even need a visa. They'll allow for people to come in and do their work, but they don't want people converting Jews. And I think that's fine. I mean, they're not saying you can't be a Christian and live in Israel. You can't come to Israel and travel if you're a Christian, but look, it's a Jewish state, and I don't really think that the Israeli government has to be advocating for people to be doing conversions. I don't think that it's in the best interest of Israel. And so there's nothing not America first about that. Like, that's another country. That's Israel. Mike Huckabee is spending time as an American in Israel. It's not like, we're in the United States of America and people are being prevented from, doing their missionary work. Israel is a Jewish state. I don't
want to give this story that much. All I'm saying to you is I'm not going this direction.
Yeah, but that's just my opinion about it.
I totally get that, and I appreciate that. No, what I'm trying to say is where, today, on any given day, like, XYZ is funded by Israel. No, they're funded by Qatar. No, Tucker's funded by Qatar. No, Theo's funded by. No, Candace's funded by Qatar. No, these guys are funded by Israel. No, this company is. This is going back and forth with, where it's creating the story here is creating a division in the Republican Party, which may lead to a completely different candidate coming out in 2028. Could be a Thomas Massey, could be somebody that's getting behind them, could be a Dave Smith, could be a Tucker Carlson. It's opening up the gap. But what do you think is going to happen with this division within the Republican Party?
I think that, it's definitely a very profitable industry. You've talked about this extensively on your show, and I know when you called it out, all these woke right people started pouncing on you, saying, oh, look at him, he's a Zionist, oh, he's a sellout to the Jews. Because you're right, you called it out. You said that it's a very profitable industry right now to capitalize off of Jew hatred. And there's a lot of people who, they pretend like they're geopolitical experts, and they pretend like they're political experts. I mean, some of these guys, like you said, they're podcasters who came from the manosphere, or they came from the fitness world. And all of a sudden, all they want to talk about every single episode is Gaza this, Israel this, Hamas this, Qatar this. And it's pretty obvious that a lot of people are getting paid to prop up talking points for foreign governments. I mean, some people have even been caught doing this. So it's not really a surprise that this is happening. I think that there are foreign interests that are trying to fracture the MAGA base because, as I said before, a lot of people are trying to pivot because they see the writing on the wall, something that I was highlighting a few moments ago about how people are trying to pivot professionally and economically and also politically. And now that we're going to see a post-Trump GOP for the first time in, the last 10 years or so, there's going to be a lot of competing interests that are going to try to capitalize the messaging. Is it going to be the MAGA movement? I don't think so. Not that I don't think the MAGA movement can sustain itself, but there really isn't anybody who could be President Trump's successor. Even President Trump himself was asked during an interview a couple of months ago, do you think that J.D. Vance is your successor? He said no. I don't think there's anybody. And that's no disrespect to J.D. I like J.D. I had a meeting with him in the White House.
Do you trust him?
I don't trust anybody.
I
don't trust anybody. I trust Trump.
That's it.
And Trump and I have had these conversations before,
too. Are you
Trump asks me all the time, who do you like, Laura? Who do you like? And I say, nobody but you. And he laughs. I mean, I've had this same conversation with Trump several times, and he busts up laughing. He thinks it's the funniest thing. But I'm not joking.
Are you America first or are you Trump first?
I'm America first. But Trump is America first. Trump is the leader of the America First movement. So when I say, when Tucker Carlson says, oh, Trump's not America first, Trump is the founder of the America First movement. America first is what Trump says it is. He is the founder of the America First movement. And you see that there are competing interests now trying to redefine what that means because they want to eliminate MAGA. Right? Being pro-Israel is part of the America First platform, whether or not people want to admit it or not. It is. President Trump, and I want to speak for him, his policy positions make him a Zionist. And so it's so funny to see all of these grifters who some of them even name their shows after America First, right? You have people who who say that they are America First commentators, and they built their entire political careers. I mean, look, you have Nick Fuentes, for example. His entire show is called America First, right? His entire show is
his show called America First?
His show is called America First with Nick Fuentes.
I know he wears the hat. I don't know his show is called America First. What do you think about Nick? Very capable communicator. What do you think about him?
He's a very talented communicator, but he burns every bridge that he has because he doesn't know how to express gratitude. He's probably the biggest ingrate I've ever met in my life. I'm Jewish.
Ingrate?
Ingrate. He is an ingrate. And I am Jewish. And, you know, I got a lot of heat. When I ran for Congress, I lost a lot of donors because I defended Nick's right to free speech. I said, look, even as a Jew, I don't like a lot of the stuff he says about Jews in Israel, but he has a right to say it. And I don't think that somebody his age or just anybody, doesn't matter how old you are, should be demonized and have their bank account shut down and be blacklisted everywhere. I mean, I've been subjected to that. I know what it's like.
He has as well, though, right? I think you guys have a lot in common.
That's what I'm trying to say. I've known Nick for several years because we both were a a very small group of people who had been viciously deplatformed. There's not many people outside of us who, and now he has access to his Twitter account too, but I'm still banned on all these other platforms. And I had been debanked and shut down on all the same payment platforms he did. So we kind of connected in that sense over our shared experience being deplatformed and persecuted, even if we don't agree on all of the issues. And, you know, there's countless videos of him talking about, oh, Laura's so great. Oh, she's my friend. Oh, she's wonderful. He endorsed me when I ran for Congress, even if, you know, he publicly said that he didn't agree with me on the Israel issue. But he is very ungrateful. You would think that somebody would realize, wow, you know, she didn't need to go out on a limb for me. She got a lot of backlash from the Jewish community for defending my right to defend myself. But then he goes on a show and says that I'm a quote, a dog-faced bitch. And he says that he calls me the biggest whore in politics. Like just from 2 weeks ago, that's what he said about me. Not a sexual whore. Like he says that, oh, her mouth is for rent. Why is my mouth for rent? Because I don't agree with you? Because I don't want to jump on your bandwagon of attacking President Trump? You're an ingrate. Change the name of your show. Stop ripping off President Trump's branding if you're going to say that your show is America First and you're propping up billboards attacking him and you're saying that, oh, he's fat, he's a loser, he's this, he's that. Like, when are you going to change the name of your show? He's admitted that he's made hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars off of his show, which is literally a reappropriation of Donald Trump's branding. So, you know, without going into a tirade, I'll just say, you know, I tried to defend his right to free speech. I never advocated for his blacklisting. I never said that he should be canceled. I always said that he should have a right to be able to say what he wants to say. But he turns on everybody. It's like an injured dog that just goes in a corner, you know, that goes in a corner and tries to bite people when you're trying to, you know, help this dog. He reminds me of a lot of these injured dogs that I try to rescue. I'm very involved in animal rescue, where it's like, you know, you find a dog that's very scared and injured and it's backed into a corner, and you try to offer it food, you try to offer it shelter, you try to offer it water, and it just tries to bite you no matter how much you try to help it. That's Nick, and that's why he doesn't have any friends. And I don't want to be malicious towards him, but every single person who has ever tried to give him a helping hand, any type of person who has tried to be gracious towards him. I'm the person that gave him the intel when somebody showed up to his home trying to shoot him a few months ago. He said, oh, thank you so much for giving me the information about who facilitated this against me. I really appreciate it. Oh,
you gave him that?
Yes, I gave him the information that he was able to then report to the FBI. And I did that because I don't agree with all of his views. I don't think that he deserves to be gunned down. And he admitted to me. This was like a text message exchange. And you would think that somebody who helped give you information that could have saved your life and prevented you from being shot, or at least gave you information about the people who facilitated this act against you, you would be a little bit more gracious, right? Even if you don't agree with them. So eventually people have to take responsibility for their own actions. He's a brilliant communicator. He obviously is very intelligent, but you know, you are responsible at the end of the day for the bridges that you burn. You are responsible for the bridges that you burn. And don't go around crying.
How old is he?
I don't know. I think he's like 25, 26. So again, I think that I'm not just sitting here bad-mouthing him. I tried to be nice, but I'm only going to be nice until somebody gives me a reason not to be nice.
Yeah.
I still believe the things I said. I don't think that he should be canceled. I don't think that that he should be blacklisted. I think that everybody, regardless of their views, has a right to be heard. Again, if you're going to be advocating for Islamic terrorism, or if you're going to be supporting terrorism or violence, then that's when you don't have a right to your voice anymore, because then it's incitement, and that's not constitutionally protected speech. But there's so many people in this industry who just forget the things that you've done for them, or they forget the things that you've done to go out of your way at your own expense. It's not like I gain anything from being nice to him or advocating for his right to free speech. I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in donations because of the stance I took on free speech absolutism. And I tried to explain to people, look, it's not, we live in America. People have a right to free speech. And then you go around and say something that's so nasty. It's just, I don't know. I'm a very loyal person, and I think that you got to show gratitude to the people that at least try to, and I'm not saying I advocate for his cause, because I certainly do not agree with what he says, but I believe he has a right to say it. He has a right to say it. And it just, I'm sure you've had similar experiences where you go out of your way to do something nice for somebody or help them, and they just shit all over you.
Yeah, I think, I don't know his background, his upbringing, parents, family, kids, where he's at, number one, oldest, youngest. I don't know who he was in high school. I don't know how he came about. When I see his clips, he's extremely thorough in the way he delivers his message. And he's 26. I'm trying to think what I was doing at 26. And how much more growth I'm going to have. You're sitting here, we're talking about the fact that why would Trump be so forgiving to this person, to that person, to this person? Do I think the 26-year-old Trump was forgiven? Hell no. Do I think the 36-year-old was? Hell no. Do I think it took him a while to kind of also grow and develop into what he is today? Of course. That's the one thing that we forget, that a lot of people are going to be around for a long time.
Yeah.
And some people are just not going to make it. This is a very tough gig to stay relevant and be around for a long time.
Yeah.
And we don't know what's going to happen when people get married and have kids and priorities change and marriage happens and kids happen. This is a lot of work that different phases of life hasn't happened. But I'm interested when you're saying this. By the way, who said America first? So when did he start his podcast? I'm just curious, because you just got me thinking.
I think he started it like 8 or 9 years ago or 7. It's
Can
like
you go
right
to
when
ChatGPT?
Trump. I think like right when Trump became president, or when he was running. But again, he even says in the very beginning of his initial episodes that he named his show after Trump's movement, America First.
Got it. Okay, so 2017, I think Trump probably said it in 15 or 16.
So after Trump.
So your biggest challenge is that he doesn't give enough credit and gratitude towards the president, and that's the word you're using, Ingrid, the fact that lack of
he built his
gratitude.
career, he built his entire show off of claiming that he was a Trump supporter. And then you could play the clip. I mean, you don't even I don't care if you do, but saying, oh, you're fat, you suck. He didn't even vote for Trump in 2024. So if you're not voting for Trump in 2024, why are you so fixated? Like, why are you pretending like he owes you so much? You didn't even vote for him. You took out billboards against his campaign in 2024. You literally told people to either not vote or go vote for Kamala Harris. So my point is that there's a lot of people out there who, I mean, look, everybody has a right to do what they want to do. He obviously has his following. But, there are a lot of people out there, including him, who take issue with me because I view myself as a loyalty enforcer. I do. And I'm a loyal person, and I'll call people out. I don't care who you are. Doesn't matter how powerful you are. If I think that you are doing something to undermine Trump and his administration, I'm going to be calling you out. And I called him out during the campaign, and I don't think he ever got over it.
Nick?
Yeah.
You called him out. How do you have a relationship with Candace, or have you guys ever collaborated, done anything? So
Candace and I used to be really good friends. I knew Candace before she was really ever famous. In fact, Candace and I and her previous boyfriend, before she got engaged to George, we used to go out and have dinner when I lived in Westchester, because she used to live in Westchester, and we would hang out. We'd have like sleepovers, and she actually picked me up when I had my wisdom teeth taken out years ago. Like, we were really good friends. Like, she picked me up from my surgery and brought me home. So
I mean, when somebody picks you for wisdom teeth, that's best buddies for life. So I'm surprised.
Candace and I were really good friends. And, I was there at the same conference where I met O'Keefe, but years prior is where her career got started.
What was that turning point?
No, it was the David Horowitz Freedom Center conference in Palm Beach. Old school, yeah. And he obviously since passed away. But that's where her career got started, which is kind of ironic. Her career literally got started at a Jewish conference. I mean, that is a very Zionist, pro-Israel, counter-jihad, anti-Islam conference. And they would invite a lot of speakers, and Charlie was one of their speakers. And I remember I was in the lobby, and Candace had shown up, and at that time, her handle on X was Red Pill Black. And she, had garnered the attention of Paul Joseph Watson and Infowars for some videos as a Black conservative talking about, just Black liberals and why she's a conservative and Black. And Charlie met her at this Horowitz conference and offered her a job right on the spot. I mean, I literally am the person that broke the story about it, because I was there when I witnessed it. He offered her a position, and then they announced it. She started working for Turning Point, and then it was shortly after that Kanye West tweeted what he tweeted about her. I forget what it was exactly. It was like, I like the way, or I love the way that Candace Owens thinks. And then she kind of became this overnight sensation and, got over 1 million followers, and then had a meeting with Kanye, yay, dead naming, and Charlie out in Los Angeles. And then they were at like TMZ headquarters or something as the story goes. And yeah, then she exploded, and that was that. But at that time, right, she was asking me for advice. Oh, how do I grow my career? How do I do this? How do I do that? And I remember she sent me the tweet when Kanye posted it and asked me if I would share it. But then when I got canceled everywhere, she didn't do anything to help me. Like, she wouldn't even have me on her show. She had access to all these shows via Turning Point and PragerU and the various shows that she had, and never once would have me on the program to talk about it. So we just I guess our friendship kind of fizzled out, and we follow each other still, occasionally have conversations, but it's become kind of contentious because a couple of months ago, she, in my DMs, falsely accused me of dancing for Israel, which I think is kind of a crazy thing to say to somebody, because I'm not Israeli. I'm an American citizen. I'm Jewish, but certainly not a dual citizen. I'm not even Israeli. So there's just a lot of friendships that I used to have. Going back to your previous question about how I view this dynamic, especially over these next few years, with these growing factions over the Israel issue, there's a lot of people who I used to be friends with that I don't really consider them friends anymore, and I don't really talk to them anymore, because this has really caused a lot of conflict. And it's not because I'm incapable of being friends with people who have opposing views, but there are people who have, in my opinion, said crazy things, insane things. I mean, just borderline pro-Islamic jihad, in some cases just outright pro-Islamic jihad, anti-American rhetoric, and I don't know, I just can't be friends with people like that. I just can't. They don't like me because
Who are you friends with? Who, if you were to say I have a good relation with XYZ, who would it be?
Well, I'm friends with James O'Keefe. I'm friends with Roger. I'm friends with Trump. It is a friendship. People say, "Oh, what's your access to the president?" It's Trump. I don't have to really go through staff. President Trump is a friend. He calls me on my birthday. He wishes me happy birthday. Occasionally will contact me on holidays. I consider the president to be a friend.
Are you friends with Bannon?
Yeah, I'm friends with Bannon. I have been friends with Roger much longer and James O'Keefe much longer. I only started to really develop a relationship with Steve Bannon after my second congressional race, so 2022. But in terms of like my longest standing friendships, it's Roger and James O'Keefe. It's hard to really see like who your friends are. Gavin McInnes is a friend of mine too. Wow, he's somebody who's been loyal to me. It's really hard. I don't want to sound.
McInnes was on Rogan, right? Like 10 years ago, 12 years ago.
Yeah, and then they attacked him for the Proud Boys and whatnot. Look, it's really hard because not a lot of people are your friend. You think that people are your friend, and then when shit hits the fan, where are they, right? So I use that term very loosely because
it's a nasty game.
I don't really have a lot of friends, and That's why I love animals. That's why I'm involved with animal rescue and I have 4 dogs, because it's really hard to have true friends because people are not loyal and it's a very competitive industry and people are constantly, it doesn't matter who you talk to, whether they want to admit it or not, they're always trying to cut you down. There's a phrase, people want to see you do well, but they never want to see you do better than them.
That doesn't work in business.
But that's how politics is.
It's nasty.
And that's a warning for anybody listening who wants to get involved in politics.
Is marriage and having kids and a family, is that important to you? I don't know if you've spoken about that or not.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I'm not married. I don't have children. I hope to be. I hope to be married.
Can a man be ahead of Trump in your life?
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't talk about my personal life that much, but I am currently, I guess the first time I'm really announcing this publicly, I am in a serious relationship.
That's great.
Yeah, so
congratulations.
So I don't talk about it a lot, but yeah, I met a really great guy, and I keep him away from the media because I don't want him to be targeted. Obviously, he's not political. We met on an airplane, so. Cool. But yeah, we've been together for a while now, and he understands. Like when we first started dating, because I didn't want to date anybody during the campaign. I said, oh, I'm busy. I don't have time. I'm working nonstop, and I don't want to meet anybody. But I wasn't soliciting. I wasn't on dating apps. It's not like I was trying to go out and date. But I just, you just met. I don't know how you met your wife, but I just ended up meeting a really great guy. And, things just happen. So we've been dating for a while now, and I told him straight up, I said, listen, because he wanted to date me at first more than I wanted to date him, because I was really focused on just trying to get Trump elected. And I was just very blunt. I said, look, you're really great. I'm sure that, you'd be a really nice boyfriend. You seem like a really nice guy. Kind of awkward. It was an awkward conversation, like a business meeting. Look, you're really great. Yeah. Listen, these are the terms. And I said, but honestly, President Trump's campaign comes first right now. And you just need to understand that you're not going to be my top priority right now. That may change after the election, but if you want to date me or even hang out with me, you have to understand that you're not my number one priority. And I thought that was going to push him away. I literally said that to him. He will tell you, if you ever met him.
Pre-election.
He would, this was during the election, right? So I said, you are not going to be my priority. Sorry, but you're not. And if you can handle that, a lot of guys can't, then great. We can date, but we're not really going to see each other. It was a long-distance relationship for a while. But he was great. Never once complained about it. Never had an issue with it. Still to this day. I mean, there's countless times where I have to, put things on hold or weekend plans get canceled because I got to do this, I got to do that. I have to travel last minute for work. But yeah, I hope to get married. I think kids would be nice. I mean, I don't know.
So funny. You are so funny.
Kids probably...
whatever. Maybe. I don't know. They may be annoying and get in the way of me doing my business. There's so many.
No, look, I definitely want to have a legacy. I'm not a feminist. I'm not anti-children. I do like children. But I also am trying to rebuild my life because I did have a lot of opportunity taken from me. And I do think that had I not been canceled for as many years as I had been canceled, I probably would be in a different social, and who knows, maybe I would have been married by now had I not had no access to social media and my career could have taken off more, right? Yeah. And I wasn't stunted. You can always make money, right? Money comes and goes. But the worst thing, in my opinion, the worst thing in life is stolen opportunity and stolen potential, in my opinion, personally.
Yeah.
Because you could win the lottery overnight, right? You could make a bad investment and lose your money. A lot of things could happen.
Sure.
You could your house could burn and you could have all your money in cash and your whole house burns and there's no money.
Or you could even be 45 years old, a governor without a car and a house.
Yeah.
And, it's a very interesting situation to be in.
Yeah.
It could be different for different people.
You could get married and you could...
I heard this for the first time today, Rob. I never knew that. But I will tell you, I get what you're saying. And I'm a very competitive, driven guy. Have been from day one, and more today than ever before. The fire is in the belly. The drive is there. There is nothing like kids and building something special. There's nothing like it. I'm telling you, it's a very different, place to be. But to each his own. As long as you're aligned and you're confident and you're happy with the decisions you're making, that later on when you're 62 years old, You don't want to sit there and be looking back saying, oh, my God, man, I wish there was a couple grandkids and something going on here that there's a reason why the man upstairs created the system the way he did. It introduces, love is a beautiful thing. Love for career, beautiful thing. If you find a career you love, there's nothing like it. You found it, right? I found it as well. The love for your parents, the way you love your mom is different than you love your dad. Love for siblings, love for a girlfriend, boyfriend, love for a husband, wife, and love for kids. Oh, my God. It's a beautiful thing. But
I mean, hope. I do hope. I
hope he breaks you. I hope this guy breaks you. And it looks like he is. So it's good if he's watching and say, whatever your name is, we don't know what your name is, but you don't like politics. Good for you, buddy.
No, he likes it. He's just not in politics.
He's not in politics.
I don't know if I could ever date somebody in politics. He's not. He's very informed, and he knows everything.
He has to. He must be a very calm, easygoing guy. That has to be his temperament. Because to be with someone like you, you have to be easygoing and extremely patient.
Yeah, I mean, we have conversation about that all the time. He's trying to teach me how to be more calm. He's trying to teach me how to relax, and
Good.
I fly off the handle, oh my God, can you believe this person? Can you believe this? And he just sits there and he's very calm. He's a great guy, but yeah, look, I mean, it's nice because my life is so chaotic, right? And so I don't think that opposites attract, because I think you have to find somebody, in my opinion, just from my own perspective, who shares your values in terms of what you believe and your insight on the world. But in terms of opposite energies, I would say that could be a positive. I couldn't imagine dating somebody or marrying somebody with my type of energy. I'd probably be if I dated myself, I'd probably be divorced.
You're what? I just looked at it. May what? Was it May 21st?
May 21st. So I'm like a Gemini Taurus cusp.
Oh shit. That's crazy, creative and stubborn simultaneously. But anyways, Laura, I'm glad we finally did this. And by the way, Laura's on, I think you're on Monect. Are you on, did they set you up on Monect?
Yeah, no, I'm on. Yeah, I'm on.
Any questions you guys want to ask, you can send a message to Laura on Monect. We'll put the link below. And she's got her own show called Laura Unleashed.
Loomer Unleashed.
I'm sorry, Loomer Unleashed. I'm looking at her right now. So we're going to put the link below on Rumble. Go support her and subscribe as well. Laura, appreciate you for coming out. This was fantastic.
Yeah, it was great. I've always wanted to come on your show, so I think it's great, and think you have a really great operation here. So I really appreciate you always being down for hosting debates. I've seen some of the best political discussions take place on your show, so I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. I don't think this is going to be the last time we're going to do stuff together. So.
Well, I've been waiting. When I saw Adam during that debate about 2 years ago, I was like, when can I come on PBD? When can I come on PBD? And he's like, we'll see. So I'm glad that I finally came on.
This was great. Again, I officially feel like the real Laura Loomer, the stories, the background, how the whole thing happened. I learned a lot about you. A lot. This was great.
It's great.
Thank you so much. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Hey, everybody. Laura Loomer here. I'm so excited to finally announce that I've joined Monect. So please be sure that you connect with me on Monect. I can't wait to chat with you, whether it be about politics, investigative journalism, or if you just want to talk to me about your furry friends and how you too can get involved in my passion of animal rescue. Whatever it is, I can't wait for you to connect with me on Monect. So be sure that you contact me today.